Last week, I had 325 videos in my YouTube watch later list. Sound familiar? A mix of 3-hour podcasts, product reviews, coding tutorials. There's just too much content on YouTube and not enough time to get through it all. So that's why I built something to solve this. Watch this. Here's an hour-long interview with Shreyas Doshi, one of the world's foremost product management experts. My tool just summarized it in 30 seconds, pulled out the key insights, and now I can even chat with the video to find specific information and get my specific questions answered. I built this tool, as you might have guessed, using AI, and it took me just 24 hours using Replit's AI Agent tool. But here's what nobody tells you about building with AI tools. It wasn't as simple as just asking AI to build it. I tried and failed a lot, I got really frustrated, and I learned some crucial lessons that I want to share with you in this video about what it takes to build using AI coding tools like Replit Agent. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my experience of building personal software that I built for my personal use using Replit's AI Agent. I'll share what I built. I'll also tell you 5 tips for how you can more effectively use tools like Replit's Agent in order to build your own applications. And I'll also end off with what I think this means for AI coding tools as a whole as we start off 2025. Let's jump into it. So first up, let me show you exactly what this tool can do. You paste any YouTube URL, and within seconds, you get an AI-generated summary of the key points. But here's where it gets interesting. You can actually chat with the video, in this case, the video transcript. Let's say I want to know what Shreyas specifically asked in terms of his questions in this video. And as you can see, the AI pulls this information directly from the video transcript. And since I built this tool, I now use it daily. Here's, for example, how I used it just this past week. The first one was checking transfer news updates because it's January transfer season in the world of football. The second is getting key points from tech reviews before buying. Here's me using it for researching the Apple Vision Pro, looking at MKBHD's reviews. And finally, saving useful information for both work and personal use. Here's an example of me using it for getting workout advice and workout tips from one of my favorite YouTubers, Jeff Nippard. And when I find useful insights, I can save them directly to my Notion for later reference. This makes it super easy and allows me to come back to videos that I've summarized and chatted with and look at the key questions that I got asked. Now that you know what the app is about, let me show you how I built this and the important lessons that you can use in order to help you build more effectively with AI coding tools like Replit Agent. Now, I've used many different AI coding tools, including things like Cursor and GitHub Copilot, and even some of the newer ones like Windsurf and Lovable. There's dozens of them out there. But I've consistently found Replit's Agent the easiest tool to use to build new apps, and it's also the fastest way for me to prototype new ideas. Replit Agent is surprisingly good at generating clean, user-friendly UIs, and it has an easy way for me to input API keys. I also love the fact that you can deploy an actual live version of your app thanks to Replit's built-in deployment tools, complete with custom domains as well. This makes it super easy to share what you've built with family and friends. The reality of building with AI tools in 2025 is that they are extremely powerful, but not perfect, not by a long way. They don't get things right the first time, they get lost in rabbit holes, they get stuck in loops, but for all the downsides, I still think they're magical. You just need to know how to work with them properly. In my time experimenting with Replit Agent, I learned 5 crucial tips that will save you hours when you're working with AI development tools. These tips apply not just using Replit Agent, but you can apply them using other tools like Cursor, Windsurf, Lovable, and the myriad others out there. So let's run through each of the tips one by one. The first tip that I want to share is to focus on one thing at a time. One thing I tried rather foolishly was to give the AI a list of 5 features to implement. I thought I'd make a cup of coffee and come back to see them all completed. I was wrong. Replit's AI agent does best when you give it one feature at a time to implement rather than telling it to do 5 different things at once. When you're specific and focused in your requests, Replit AI shines. But when you're too vague or try to do too much, it tends to break and frustrate. An easy way to do this is to make a small planning doc. Now, your planning doc doesn't need to be a full-scale product requirement doc. It can just be an Apple note with a clear idea of what you want to build and a breakdown of the key features and user interactions. That means how you want the app to function when you click different buttons and what the experience you want to build needs to be like. You can even ask ChatGPT or Claude to make one for you and use that as the base prompt for the Replit agent. Once you have a plan outlined, you can prompt the Replit agent. And as a pro tip, I recommend using the prompt enrich feature, as it will usually suggest enhancements that give you a better starting point. Tip number 2 is don't blindly trust suggestions made by AI. Research them yourself. Even simple apps like the one that I made for YouTube summaries require a few different APIs and different integrations in order to actually be useful and deliver value. And Replit does a great job of making suggestions of tools to use and actually automatically using those tools. It's part of what makes the tool really magical. But the problem is that not every suggestion made by these tools will suit your app, and you need to do your own research about which tools and which APIs work best for you. For example, Replit suggested I create a GCP account to get a YouTube API key, but it turns out that the official YouTube API isn't actually a good fit for what I wanted to build. I wasted probably 2 or 3 hours because I didn't immediately verify, and I just kept going and ended up having to change and rip out functionality and rebuild things down the line. So instead of doing what I did and just blindly trusting the AI suggestions, research them yourself. Use tools like Perplexity, even just Google around for the right APIs and make sure that you're picking things that fit your requirements and then tell the AI exactly which one you want to use. Secondly, ask the AI to list potential APIs or to list potential integrations and choose which one you want to use. You can ask Replit Agent, you can even use Claude, you can use ChatGPT. And as a pro tip, give the AI and give Replit Agent documentation for your chosen API. For example, I copied pasted a page of Notion's API docs into the Replit agent so that it can reference it when it was building the export to Notion functionality. Tip number 3, let the AI inspire you. I got the idea for my expand feature, which allows me to easily get more information about any bullet point in a video summary, thanks to Replit putting a copy button next to each bullet. Now, while this seemed like a mistake initially, I thought about what would make sense as a button next to each bullet, and the expand feature was born. Similarly, you can also just ask Replit for feature ideas and note down which ones make sense. You can also try using other tools like Claude or even ChatGPT Pro with O1 if you want something with more planning and more creativity. Now, tip number 4 is probably the most important one and one I wish I started with when I started building with these AI coding tools. And that is debug like a developer. Now, while it's possible to build tools using AI with no programming experience, you still need to learn the soft skills of programming. The most important one being how to debug problems. Or in other words, finding, diagnosing, and fixing problems that you run into as you build your app. Now, I tried the simple thing of just asking the Replit agent to fix its own problems, but I started getting more joy when doing things like asking it to implement logging from the start, or asking it to print API responses and output partial results to the console so I can help it diagnose where problems were. Replit's DevTool feature is very useful here, and this is something I wish I used from the beginning. So that's a mindset to inhabit. You're still going to have to debug, and you're going to have to get used to working with these AI tools in order to solve problems. Again, these are tools that are going to help you build software, but you still need to play a part, and debugging is where you're going to probably spend most of your time, along with actually coming up with feature ideas and imagining user experiences. Lastly, tip number 5, know when to quit. Now, this sounds odd, like, isn't the whole point of using AI applications that you can do more? Why are we quitting? Sometimes the AI will actually get stuck in rabbit holes and there's no way out. You need to use your judgment about when it would be best to roll back to a previous version of your app or keep on trying to solve a problem with the AI and the current thread of reasoning. Now, Replit has a cool rollback functionality that makes it easy to go back to a previous checkpoint of your app, although it didn't always work for me for the exact checkpoints that I wanted to. You could also do things like fork your project when you hit a key milestone, or use some sort of version control in other coding tools like branches, or you can set up a Git repository if you know how to do that. So there you have it. Those are 5 tips that I wish that I learned when I started using AI coding tools like Replit Agent, and I hope they save you a bunch of time as you go and explore these tools for yourself. I think my experience building this YouTube summary app captures much of the conversation around AI coding tools in 2025. They're simultaneously incredibly powerful and incredibly frustrating. But even with current limitations, I'm proud to have built something that I now use every single day. It helps me summarize 3-hour-long videos in minutes, getting specific insights from long interviews, and helping me save hours of watch time and help in my research process as I learn things for both work and personal pursuits. But Avtar, what about all the downsides? What about all the frustrations that you talked about? Yes, there are quirks. Yes, you still need some development knowledge, like knowing how to debug. But that's exactly why this is exciting. To dismiss these tools because they're not always perfect would be a mistake, in my humble opinion. So I was going to end the video there, but I thought a little bit more about my experience using Replit's AI agent, and I was reminded about something that Marques Brownlee, MKBHD, said in his review of the OpenAI video generation model called Sora. And he says, "This is the worst that AI will ever be." And I think the same is true for AI coding tools like Replit Agent and Cursor and the myriad of others out there. These tools will only get better over time, and the barriers to building useful software will continue to drop every day. The question isn't whether AI will change software development. The question is how quickly it does. And more importantly, how quickly we can adapt and embrace these tools and technologies to help us do more. So that's my experience using Replit's AI agent. I'd love to hear about your experience using AI coding tools, what you've built, and what tools and technologies I should check out next. Drop a comment below.